have that with you, we will do that at the end. So I'm happy to say, as I'm looking around the room, I have some of you that have been very dedicated to this 3-part series of pursuing your passion with bulletproofing your career with the 3 Ps. We talked about your purpose and kind of finding out what is your purpose in life, what is your purpose in your career. We also talked about preparing your marketing plan to kind of get yourself out there to kind of start pursuing that. And today we're going to focus on kind of the pursue, which is the action plan, kind of those next steps, kind of focusing in how do I get my resume out there? How do I optimize LinkedIn? What is my brand? All this information we're going to kind of talk about today. So I'm happy to see, like I said, some dedicated faces of people that have been through part 1 and part 2. If you missed those, they are available. We do have the video recording linked to here at the library, or my contact information will be on those handouts too. You can email me and I can send you the link if you'd like to view those. If you missed those sessions, and provide those handouts for you as well, and the library does have that information too. And just to let you know, today's presentation is also going to be recorded for that same purpose, for people that were not able to attend tonight that want to see the kind of presentation series. It will be available. It's been delayed. They usually said it was a couple days, but it's been taking kind of a couple of weeks. So I'm hoping we've got the video under control on how to do that quickly this time around, so I can give you a faster turnaround with the link to this presentation today. But the handouts that I did provide, the one that actually has the word STAR across the front of it, is a handout for today's presentation, and it does have a lot of the takeaway information that you're going to see on the screen here, but if you want to use that as well as a guide. So those of you who are brand new or here for the first time, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Christen Mazura-Morris, and I am the founder of my new company called Upward Calling, career coaching services and resume writing services. I am here in Lamont. I live here in Lamont. I am a resident of Lamont, but I actually serve the United States as far as my coaching and resume writing abilities. But I'm happy to serve the people of my community. So that's one of the reasons that we're reaching out within the library here, people in my own backyard, to be able to support through the job search process. But some of the services that I provide, and again, the back of that handout has my contact information and this information for you too. But we'll kind of go through and talk about some of the things today that are kind of some of my specialties. Today, of all 3 presentations, is my favorite part of the presentation, because this is where the biggest part of my passion lies, in helping my clients. And so today we're going to talk about part of the resume and the branding documents and your career documents, the LinkedIn side and the personal branding, and some of the other things we've kind of talked about. We're going to touch a little bit on interviewing, but if you need support with that, after everything we've talked about, you actually land the interview to go in and kind of advocate for yourself in person. You need some extra coaching or experience to kind of practice before you walk in and have to do it in person, and want to be prepared for maybe some of those questions you might be asked, or be prepared for a virtual interview versus an in-person interview maybe that you're used to kind of help prep you for that through the process. But I am a certified professional career coach, certified professional resume writer, certified professional interview professional, and with helping people, again, prepare for interviews. And I've kind of been working in this industry, combination of teaching it and doing it for the last 15 years. So passion of mine, like we're talking about our purpose, I'm very passionate about this, so you've seen me talk about it. But today we're going to focus on the different types of branding, how to define what your personal brand is. Everybody has a brand, so do you know what it is? Can you define what it is? The reasons why it's important to kind of create that brand, not even to be able to find it, but create it and know how to use it in order to then optimize your resume, and when you're going in for the interview, and kind of protecting yourself against the ATS or computer tracking systems that scan your resume documents to determine if you're going to be a good fit to move forward and set up that interview process. We're going to talk about the STAR method and how that's used on your resume and in your interview, and then how to maximize using kind of LinkedIn and helping that work for you to ultimately land that interview, to know what those employers are looking for once you kind of get that foot in the door, then to be able to speak about those skills. that you have built up on your resume and you want to offer someone else. But I thought we'd do something different this time. Instead of opening up with kind of a question, I'm going to open up with kind of a little mini test. Nothing, no right or wrong answer in your regards. You know, there is a right or wrong answer, but you can kind of decide if you know the answer. So somewhere on the cheat sheet, it could be the back of my survey that I have. You know, you can just jot down number 1 through 10. And what I'm going to do, since the topic we're going to start with is branding, I'm going to show you 10 brands, and I just want to see if you can define what those brands are, if you're familiar with those brands, based upon how well that they kind of market their brand and kind of who they are as a company. Okay? So 1 through 10, there's 10. So I have them numbered on the screen too, so you can just kind of list next to the number then which company you think is being showcased or branded based on this image that you're seeing. Make your brains work a little bit tonight. I think most of these I made it easy so you don't have to get too hard. Most of these are pretty.
Please don't say that.
pretty more popular used. Anybody having trouble with a specific number? All right, don't say what it is, but if you, so 4, okay. 7, somebody said?
4 and 7.
Is that what you guys?
Pardon me?
4, number 4. Let's be honest, I had a little bit. Because it's not one.
I've seen it.
That one, and once I knew what it was, I've seen it, but I had to. Anybody need another second?
I'm gonna go on 7.
Once you hear them or know what they are, then you're like, oh. So before I show you the answers, let's just kind of go through it and see how we did. So how about number 1? Anybody know that one?
Yeah.
Apple. Okay. Number 2?
NBC, Peacock.
Everybody think it's a different network? Okay. How about number 3?
Nike.
Number 4. Anybody know number 4? Somebody's Microsoft? I'm not gonna give the answer, but I'm just gonna guess. Okay. It's not. Similar color schemes. Okay, number 5, which is true to my heart. Number 6.
Microsoft.
Windows.
Wow, I wrote Windows.
Okay. Number 7. Okay, bless you.
God bless you.
Number 8. No.
Really?
No.
Not Panda Express.
I can't remember the name, but it is actually an
Apple.
activist.
You would think, right? Because it has
But
some.
I can't remember the name of it off the.
You will when you
It's
see
not
it, because they
Panda
have the
Express.
commercials on all the time. All right, number 9. Shell what? What is Shell?
Yes.
Okay, gasoline. Okay. And number 10. Okay. So here are the answers. So the World Wildlife Fund.
Yeah. MSN.
Really?
MSN. Does that make sense now that I think of it?
What's for?
So again, based on, did you recognize maybe the butterfly? You couldn't necessarily put the brand with it, but you recognize the image or the representation of what the brand might be too. Maybe not. So kind of talking about brand. So what is a brand? What is branding, or what is a brand?
a logo?
So a logo can represent that, but what is the actual brand? So the logo is showing you or identifying that this is a brand or this represents something.
Representation of your company, what you do.
Okay, so representation of whether it be a company or what you do, okay?
Isn't it a sign of the times that I want to go Alexis?
Can you tell me what it is? All right, so a couple things. There's 3 types of brands. Okay, first it could be, as you mentioned, a corporation or company. Okay, it could be a product based on what you see and something representing that. It might not necessarily be the logo, but a product that would be connected with that brand. Or what we're going to kind of focus on today is it could be a personal brand. It could represent you or someone based on the statement that you're trying to make. Okay, so to give you an example, okay, this is my LinkedIn profile. Okay, this is part of our presentation today. So what do you see that I'm doing between these 2 different areas to show my brand? So what do you see that's similar between the 2 images or the 2 pictures? Just from a visual perspective.
Your photograph,
Okay, so I have the same picture, the same image.
colors,
Color scheme. Okay. Mm-hmm.
mountains, upward, ocean.
So the mountain is kind of back behind this one, but yes, versus the mountain, or that's my actual logo there that you're seeing, the upward calling logo. So just visually, the way I'm dressed today, and if any of you have been here at the presentations the last 3 times, you'll notice that I wore similar colors to my branding or to my color scheme, so I didn't stand out when I was standing against my background, but I blended. It was a good soft on the eye kind of thing as you're going through and looking at. So it's not just color, it's not just a logo, but that's kind of start of what people will visually be able to kind of put together when you start to see, just like you saw those logos of those companies. You know that when you see Target, what color is Target typically represented by? Red, okay? So there's certain colors or images, and people have done a lot of research on this too in the marketing world, based on certain colors that you use too, makes you feel a certain way or portrays a certain type of company or product or personal brand too. So the color purple specifically, my favorite color, it's always been my favorite color. I've worked for many companies that happen to be purple as their color scheme or their brand or their logo, but it's a sense of, in this case, I guess one of the reasons that I used it or picked it too is a sense of distinguishment, sense of kind of royalty, sense of kind of precedence or prestige, kind of puts a kind of it's that word on there. But I offset it with the yellow meaning that I tend to be a happy, brighter, positive person, and that color typically is associated with sunshine or that kind of feeling of more happiness or that sense of emotion. Okay. So another way to kind of look at and think about what your brand might be, have you ever gone and Googled yourself? Have you ever gone into Google, typed your name, and looked to see what kind of things popped up that represented, or what people think represent you? It might not necessarily be accurate if you're not someone that is controlling what's being published or written or put out there about you. But have you gone and Googled yourself? You said yes. So what came up, or what did you see? Were there things that you recognized that went along with your name or other accomplishments that you had or companies that you worked with? Is what came up or what you saw. Okay, so I went and did this. I did this prior to starting my company, but I did this for the presentation here. So I went in and I put my name in Google to look and see what came up. And luckily, the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things that came up were actual things to do with me as the person. Now, if you notice, my last name is hyphenated. So if I put in Christen Mazura, which is my maiden name, or Christen Morris without the other name, other people that have a similar name or have that same name will also come up. And so what I was feeling like, because I have a harder name, my last company, I was not married, got married, but they wouldn't switch it over to my married name based on when I started the company, it was in my maiden name, it was a whole thing. So they hyphenated it. So professionally, I'm known this way, even though legally I'm not. So it gets kind of confusing, but other people that were out there that had a similar name to me did not have a good reputation, or the industries that they worked in were things that I did not want to be associated with. Okay? So that's why it's important also to kind of look at that, because even though it might not be you, if people don't see your picture on a profile or your picture on your social media or other things, they could represent that or think that's you, even though it might not be out, it might be somebody else that is being described. So I went with my name hyphenated professionally to be outgoing even with my business, because I could control that. And I wanted to, again, make sure when someone Googled my name that it was me and the things, my accomplishments or the things that I was doing that were coming up on there. So then I took it a step further and I put in my company name with my name to see what came up, and also still seeing things with my name in it, but then I'm starting to see, these are the things here at the library that I've done the last several months that were more recent that started coming up and connecting my company to other things that I was doing, okay? Now I'm doing it for my business, but this is even personally for you. You know, if you've been in the newspaper for something, it could be just something locally based on where you live or an accomplishment from high school or college or in your business, but things will come up, and so you want to make sure that you Google yourself first of all to see what is it showing, because that's what an employer could potentially do and see, but also then based on what you're seeing, is it a good representation of you? And if not, how do we control that brand? And that's something I can work with and kind of show you how to do. I also pulled this, which was the library's promotion that they did online for social media. So again, it's in their color scheme and their colors based on their program and what they were advertising, but they did include my name, which will also link then to Google and online. And then I also included and asked them to include my logo, so they're making still that connection that it's my company as well when they're putting something out there. Okay, so some reasons to build a brand, okay? So you might be thinking, based on where I'm at, well, why do I need a brand? Why does it matter? Okay. Well, ultimately, companies now, before they're gonna call you to set up an interview, whether it be the tracking system ranking of where you fall, or someone reading your resume and wanting to call you in, a lot of times they're going to go to Google or they're going to go to social media and they're going to put in your name and they're going to see what comes up and they're going to learn more about you before they decide to take that next step and reach out to you. And we're even in a shift right now in the job search industry that a lot of times too, people are finding you through the LinkedIn platform, which we'll talk about later, rather than actually looking at your resume first. They're actually finding you through LinkedIn first, and then the resume is kind of the second part, the second point to kind of move you through into the interview process. So if you're not out there, you don't have some kind of presence or brand, or you're looking to make a job change and you're not controlling this, you could be doing yourself a disservice. Based on what an employer might see or learn about you, if you're not in understanding or kind of aware of what's being put out there or how to correct that based on, I've had clients that have done work for companies where the company has done something wrong or terrible and has been in the news for things. And because their name and LinkedIn or wherever is associated with that company, sometimes that negative news or other things come up. So there's ways to kind of get that information pushed downward and get the good information pushed upward through utilizing or optimizing different things on the platform. But ultimately, we want you to start gaining recognition based on the skills that you have, what you have to offer, so that when employers go on and look, they're going to see things that are going to showcase you, your talents, and kind of who you are, and ultimately potentially start reaching out to you based on if there's a need with their company and you're matching that need, which happens a lot on LinkedIn. You might not even be looking for a position that they might be reaching out to you based on the search that they're doing or the keywords that they're using, that they're seeing that you have skill in. But it's an opportunity for you to start creating relationships with companies that might be of interest, or people that might work for a company of interest or work in the industry that maybe you're wanting to change from the one you're doing now into that new industry. If you are in the social media area, you might want to grow your following. If that's an industry, I'm working with an intern right now, a student who is looking for an internship in social media. That's her major in school. She's in communications and kind of media studies, trying to grow her following. And she actually, I'll showcase her in a little bit, but she has a very large following with her. But by growing your following online and people seeing that you have these skills, people then start to reach out to you to utilize those skills based on what it is that you know how to do. So for instance, what I do, for a living, if there's job seekers out there, for instance, on the LinkedIn, and I'm putting out there, these are my skills, this is my showcase, these are my credentials, these are things that I do, I have people reaching out to me, even though I might not be marketing to them, saying, hey, I found you online, I see you're in the area, or I see this is your specialty. I was wondering if you could help me out or tell me more about your pricing, more about your services, kind of thing. So again, people start to find you. And that's me saying it with my own business, but it doesn't have to be your own business. It could be a company or an employer or a job that you're trying to target within another area or platform. But it's a way for you to start to build the trust, for you to be building relationships with people, to potentially be referred by someone maybe that you know on LinkedIn that works for a company, or knows somebody that works for a company or has a position available in an area that might be your specialty, that can make a introduction for you to help get your foot in the door, to kind of bypass some of those computer systems, or bypass having to do it on your own, or blanketly kind of call and just kind of do that. But kind of building people that you already know, we talked about kind of that networking to kind of act as your introduction within that company, or getting your resume to the right person within the company. So again, having control over that reputation, but then also based on what it is that you do, being able to kind of help you sell those skills in a better way and kind of do it for you on a platform. So if you're looking at this and you're like, oh my gosh, I have no idea, I don't even have LinkedIn, or I have LinkedIn, I haven't looked at it in years. Maybe you do another social media platform. So we're talking about LinkedIn because it's considered the professional platform. We talked a little bit about that in the last session. But there are assessments where you can do, here's one example, and it's on your handout on the back side too, to be able to go, if you want to go on your own, but you can actually take an assessment to figure out what is your personal brand, or start to define what your personal brand is. So here's one of the websites I found. It was H2H University, that I went and took it to just see, what came out, what was my brand, or what did it say about me. So of the options, of the 6 options that it would give you based on the area for your personal brand, mine came out as selective, and they define selective as, I value exclusivity, and I'm largely viewed as being informative and resourceful. Well, I'm presenting to you, I'm providing information, I'm a resource for you in your job search. But also, as I mentioned, I value exclusivity because I customize everything that I do for my clients. So some people, some resume writers will copy and paste, some resume or career coaches will do more group coaching. Everything I do is on an individual basis. It's customized for my individual clients, and it's the designs of the resume, the look of the resume, what the content of the resume says, is all things that that particular client and I have talked about, discussed, and or that they have provided as far as information that might set myself apart or be part of my brand, or different from other resume writers, or people that you might see that have different pricing, or different types of services, or just different fast around turnaround, where they can do it quick. I can do it overnight for you, here you go, kind of thing. But how much are they really getting to know you as that person, and what your authentic self is, to put it on paper for other people to see. And so that's my approach, but other people have different approaches. So you gotta kind of look and kind of shop around then, based upon what you're looking for, if you're going through looking at the resume writing side of things. This was something that came across my desk today that I added in, that I thought was interesting. This is actually like a report card that you can go through and answer these questions and figure out how you rank in your brand, or the brand that you already have now, is it producing and maintaining the value that it should, and where are you at, or kind of where your deficits are, to kind of see, well, what am I good at with my brand, and what do I maybe need to work on. So if you're still kind of like, no idea, what is she talking about, this branding thing, who am I, or what does this mean, some things to kind of consider or think about. Okay, so if you are going to post things online, maybe you do. How many of you have Facebook? Facebook? Snapchat? Twitter? Twitter is what you're raising? What did I forget? What else you have? Twitter, Instagram, anything else? Anything else? TikTok. How did I forget TikTok? TikTok's the big one. I'm working with that client right now. Anybody have TikTok? Do we have some TikTok? Okay. And some of you might be, what are those? TikTok's a clock. What are you talking about? So depending on where you are, what platform you're using is also going to determine kind of information that you're putting out there. But we want to look at what type of content will you be posting if you're going to post something online. Okay, so even if it's Facebook or a TikTok or whatever it is, what is it about that you're posting? You know, what is the area or the subject matter or things that you're showing on those profiles that are important to you, based on what you're liking or based on what you're posting about you, your family, or your life on there. Also, what are your values and how do you get them across to other people? So what's important to you in your life? We talked a little bit about this in the series of things that you value that are important, and looking at specific companies, do they value the same thing? Are you going to be able to carry that across or continue to do something that's going to kind of uphold the value? What's important to you? Having a flexible work schedule is a change in value for a lot of people due to the pandemic, and they're searching for new opportunities. So those companies or those places that you're searching, or that position or job title that you want, is that going to allow for a flexible work schedule if that's something that you value? So we want to look at that. Who is your current audience, or what kind of audience do you like to attract? So when you put something out there, is it for your peers? Is it for a specific age group or target? Is it a specific group of people that have a similar interest to you of what it might be? So I used to be the, I don't even remember what the actual title was, but I used to be the Disney internship college recruiter with Joliet Junior College. And prior to that, I used to be an actual alumni of the Disney, I'm still an alumni of the Disney College Program Association. So one of the things that are of interest to me are the Disney company. So I follow things with the Disney company, I like things with the Disney company, I promote things with the Disney company. So people associate Disney with me when they see me, or people that have worked with me regarding that type of program. So what is it, or what audience, or what target? So because of that target or that audience, that's usually a student population, because the internship is during the student time of life that they offer it through the Disney company. So I work with a lot of students on that side of things. But what is your target when you put it out there? So what are your interests? Are you someone that likes to be in nature? Do you like to hike, or do you like to garden and grow things, or they recently had a presentation here about raising chickens and being on a farm. I don't know if anybody came and saw that presentation. Do you have an interest in that? You know, things that you follow, things that you're interested in. So throw out, what are other things that you're interested in, or maybe that you post, or pictures or quotes, or things that have to do with something that you like in your life when you're posting online?
My dog.
Your dog, okay. Fur babies.
Yes.
For sure, for sure.
And then animals that are lost, that end up at shelters or humane societies, even if it's not just in Lamont, I'll throw it out there because you get friends all over, and
to help save,
yes,
or
yes,
go to one of these shelters to kind of
find
help
their dog. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
But I will also tell you that I went to Rosie's in Frankfurt, and in the washroom is a statue, and a girlfriend of mine put her hands like on the statue's butt. I thought it was funny. I posted it. A girlfriend of mine said, "You're looking for a job and that's what you're putting out there?" I said, "But it's not even me." She goes, "Oh, I thought it was an old picture of you." I said, "No." So I went ahead and took it down.
And thank God we have the opportunity to do that now. Before, you know, it's still out there in some way, but at least it took it off your feed. And hopefully, you know, if you were to Google or do something like that, that you wouldn't see it kind of pop back up in some way. But again, you brought up a great point, is that you want to be in control of that branding. So even if it's that thought process before you post something, and I'm looking for a job, or I might be looking for a job in the future, and someone goes to my social media, even though they might not be my friend, but there's ways to access that information. What you're putting out there, is that a good representation of your reputation and what you want employers to know or to see? So we talk to people a lot based on if you're putting on partying every weekend and you're showing pictures of you being out with your drunken friends and other things happening, even though it's on a social platform, if a company or organization is seeing that, they might associate the fact that, hey, if we have events or certain things where you're going to have to attend and interact with our clients, it doesn't look like you can hold your alcohol. It doesn't look like you can act appropriately. This is maybe not someone that I want to move forward with as a candidate with this job or this position. Even though that might be what you do in your personal time, it's the message that you're putting across, and that's what we want to kind of look at. So what do you want to achieve with the brand that you're putting out there? And ultimately, if you're here today, it might be to land your next position or land your next job. It might be to build up your social media presence. It might be just to showcase, a place to showcase your achievements and accomplishments and things that you've done, and or a place to kind of network with other professionals that have a similar interest, a similar way of doing things, or are in a similar industry that you're passionate about, that you want to have connections with down the line. So these other ones we're going to talk about kind of on the next screen here. But some additional questions, this is on your handout too, these questions, so as we're kind of going through. But things you want to keep in mind, or questions you want to ask yourself when you're starting to look at your brand is, what is, one of the things is, what is unique about you? So everybody has skills, but if you're educated in those skills, somebody else might have gone to the same school or been in a similar program with education and been educated in that area as well. So why are you different from the next candidate that's going to come in and apply for that job? And you do have unique traits, unique skills, something that is unique or something you're good at or you know how to do. And we're talking about kind of that purpose or those special things that you're really passionate about. But can you communicate that potentially to an employer to tell them what sets you aside, what's your value, what you can bring to that company versus the next candidate that's going to walk in the door behind you? And that's the harder part a lot of my clients have, is building up your confidence to not just say it on a resume, but now I got the resume out there, it got me the interview, but now I got to go in and talk about it in person and feel comfortable talking about it in person. And can I do that? Can I showcase my skills if I'm asked questions like this? Can I speak to that and be confident in what I'm saying and how I'm speaking about that? One of the things to look at too is to read through maybe LinkedIn recommendations, and we'll show you there's ways to do that, or past performance evaluations from your previous employers to say, what are people saying about me? What are the themes that I'm seeing? What am I really good at? Is it my people skills? Maybe I'm really good at interacting with people, interacting with customers. Maybe I'm a team player. Maybe it's my technical skills. What I can operate or use on the computer systems or the software that particular company is using. What is it that is something that you're passionate about and you're good at because you're passionate about it? It makes you want to get better at it or learn more about that. So anybody just want to throw out a skill that maybe you possess that someone else in here might not possess or know how to do that would set you apart? Anybody speak another language?
I'm good with old people.
Okay, so that is maybe your target group or audience of who you have a connection with. I have a good friend that's like that too. She loves to go to nursing homes and other places and just have conversations with people that are living in those communities that are kind of lonely and don't really have a listening ear or people visiting them. That's not as much my cup of tea. I've done it with her, and we've gone, but that's not where my passion lies or my passion is, kind of thing. Now, you mentioned how you speak another language. Okay, so does anybody else speak Mandarin, Chinese? Okay, so that's a skill that sets you apart versus someone else based on the clientele or the partners that company might have or where they do business with, to be able to communicate with more than one speaking language audience.
Google Analytics certified.
Google Analytics certified, okay? And that's a good thing now as far as knowing that, because that's what people are looking to see, is not just using the media and the media platforms, but are you analyzing it to see how can we improve it or make it better, or what does that actually mean based on what we're doing? Is it success versus something that could have been better? Anybody else? You talked about your other interests. So what is your certification or background?
I'm a registered and licensed dietitian.
Okay,
But I don't work in that industry.
Okay, but there's no but, but you still possess those skills. You still possess that education. You could still talk to somebody that maybe had questions about the industry versus somebody else in here that might not know how to answer a question like that. Building that confidence, right? Skill that you possess. Own it. Okay. Anybody else? You all have one. I'll give you one of mine, and you might have it. It might be your skill too. But I am a very empathetic person. So that is something that when I work with my clients, I've been told many times with my clients, as well as my previous bosses, that I have a way of connecting with people because I can sense how you're feeling, and I ask questions to kind of draw that out or make you think deeper about what I'm feeling or sensing based on kind of maybe what your nervousness or lack of confidence or risk might be, maybe taking that next step, especially in the job search, which is kind of a difficult
Or
process.
body language, which I've been trying to watch while I've been in front of you.
Your body language you're talking about, or my body?
My body language,
Okay.
I've been trying to look pleasant because you do seem that you would be able to read that in people. So that's very good for you and for people that you work with.
And that took me a while to figure out, and it was more of having people tell me that. So again, leaning on people that are in your network that know you well. How would they describe you? What would they say your traits are, your attributes, versus maybe somebody else? And then kind of look into those deeper to see, is that a theme that you would see from someone that you worked with versus someone maybe that you went to school with versus somebody in your family network, kind of thing along the way. Looking at your greatest strengths or qualifications that you can bring to the table. So one of the big things right now is based on COVID, companies want to know if you were working from home or you were at home and business was shut down, what did you do with the time that you had available? Did you do anything to build your skills or stay current in the industry? Did you watch webinars? Did you do trainings? Did you take an online course? What did you do to kind of grow or move forward or keep current in that industry, or an industry you're planning to target? And so those are things that they're going to look at. It could be, hey, I learned how to help my children go through e-learning, kind of thing. It could be, but that's a new skill set, and there's ways to showcase that on an actual resume based on if that was your job during the pandemic or something that you were doing during that time. So how others would describe you, things to look at. So these are the key things. So this is my passion. It's resume writing, kind of creating you on paper for people to see and to kind of learn and know about, to say, hey, I want to call this person. Look at these great accomplishments and things that they've done. And then to train you and teach you how to be able to showcase that face-to-face then on your own when you get in front of somebody else. So professional value branding is what they're going to see on your resume, your professional skills, your professional experience, all the things that you've done, your accomplishments, your education, your certifications. And then the personal value branding is then you going in and then getting a feel for your vibe, your personality. Are you going to be a good fit for the culture that we have within our business? What we value, what's important to us? Are you kind of going to fit in as part of the team, or based on kind of the way you're presenting yourself? And it could be due to nerves if you're not practicing and kind of preparing for this. What you're putting out there is that hiring manager, the person that's sitting there interviewing you, are they feeling that good connection? Because it really should be a conversation in interview. It shouldn't be you feeling like you're on the spot. Ooh. And that's our microphone. I'm just going to put it up here just so it can still reach. But what are you putting out there in that interview? I mean, sometimes people will actually be hired based upon, and I've seen this actually firsthand in an interview panel that I've been on, but people will actually be hired not based on their skill, but based on their personality and what they brought into that interview, because they felt, the company feels that skills could be something that we could train them in, we could help them learn or to grow in, but you can't necessarily train personality, what you are, who you are, what you're kind of putting out there as far as the person that you are. And so if they feel you're a good fit and it's a good vibe, they might actually give you the job over somebody else that's just as qualified but has maybe even more credentials than you. So that's why we want you to feel comfortable and be yourself when you're in that interview process. So one of our resume writer actually put this out, and I thought this was a really great way to look at it, so I'm just gonna read it. So, no one buys what you do, because lots of other people can do what you do, like we're talking about, and no one buys how you do it, but people buy why you do what you do. Why are you passionate about whatever industry that you're in? Why is it exciting? Why is it something you thrive on? Why is it something you're excited about? So you have to be honest with yourself. Are you, first of all, living out your purpose? Are you living out the job, your dream job, what you love to do, okay? And can you articulate why you love to do what you love to do? Because ultimately, like we're saying in the interview, people are gonna hire people. They're not gonna hire a resume, your portfolio, other credentials that you have. If you can articulate that, they can feel that passion, they have a similar passion, it's a good connection, potentially you could be offered the job on the spot. And I've seen that happen, it's happened to me. Okay, so those of you that brought your resume with, if you have it with you too, you might want to pull it out and make some notes as we're going through. So the first way you're going to brand yourself or kind of put yourself out there is on that resume. So you see it posting online, or you have someone like my sister had today say she talked to somebody about an internship or clinical that she had to do, and they said, well, send me over your resume. And she's like, I don't have my resume, because we've been talking about we're updating and modernizing her resume. So these are the key things. The resume world is constantly changing, but these are kind of some of the key things to make sure the resume you do have that you kind of pay close attention to these kinds of things. These are going to show that you're more modernized, that you're updated with your resume and your document, especially if you're doing it on your own and you're not going to be working with a professional that kind of knows the ins and outs. So all the things that you're going to see today too are also resumes that I've done for other people, but I've taken away their name and their specific information to just showcase, to show you as an example. But the biggest thing, and the thing that a lot of people kind of make a mistake doing, the very top of your resume, underneath your heading, you should have the actual position or job target that you're going after. Okay, so it shouldn't just say HR professional or sales professional. Okay, so whatever that company is calling that actual job in that job posting should be what's at the top of your resume, to show them that it's not a blanket resume, a general resume you're just sending out to anybody. You're targeting it specifically towards that company and towards that position that they're advertising. So in this case, he was targeting a senior Oracle ERP applications DBA position. Complicated in the tech world, okay? And so the next thing is there is no longer a, you used to see it, I'm trying to even think what the old title was, I'm forgetting it. But underneath your objective statement. So a lot of people would say objective and write your objective statement. There are no longer objective statements on resumes. So that's a key thing. If you show that or have that, it's going to show that you're updated. Okay, now it's what we call a professional summary. And so you want to make sure that it's 3 to 5 short statements, sentences at the top of your resume that kind of give an overview of your kind of career history. So more of a general overview. And then you're going to kind of go more into the details once you get more into the bulk of the resume. But you're going to have that again towards the top. So the first 1/3, or the first top third of your page of your resume is the part that gets scanned and looked at the most by recruiters, hiring managers. So if you don't have something in that top 1/3 of your resume that's going to catch somebody's eye within those seconds that we talked about, 7 to 8 seconds, that they're looking at it, they're going to move on to somebody else and you're going to go in the garbage can. Okay, so that's what we want to wow. So that's another reason for the image that you're also seeing here, kind of pulling out some other key areas that he had on his particular resume. Keywords that are ATS and the hiring managers are going to be looking for. So this is kind of a newer section. A lot of times people have skills on the resume, but sometimes they're way at the bottom or they're kind of hidden or kind of weaved in different places. The reason that this is where it is here is more for the ATS tracking system. So that computer tracking system is looking for certain keywords based on the job description that that company is putting out there. And they not only want to find those keywords, but they want to see them multiple times on the resume, but at least one time so that you're getting ranked that you have skill in that area. So what I did when I did this resume is I broke out his technical expertise versus his leadership expertise. Because I have a different client who had both technical and leadership expertise. And he's like, I'm done with the leadership stuff. I don't want to be a manager. I don't want to deal with everybody else's problems. I want to get back to kind of the basics of what I love to do in the technical side of things. So on his resume, we would take off the leadership skills because we're not trying to target more of a leadership role, even though he has leadership experience. But we would keep those technical expertise because right away, if you're not showing this is the requirements of the job description and you're not showing it on your resume somewhere, you're already going to the bottom of the list. The computer tracking system is going to kind of read through and rank you.
If I am applying for a order entry position and I have worked order entry in manufacturing, order entry in home care, people have said that I need to make the resume specific to the company, but what I'm applying for is order entry. So is it okay to have a couple different places that I worked doing order entry, but in 2 different fields?
So first of all, I'll ask you, when you say the people, are they resume professionals?
No, they are
Career
not.
Professionals? Okay, so that's the first thing. I wouldn't just listen to other people, okay? But you can reach out to a professional like myself. Most of us do kind of a complimentary thing to ask some questions like that. But to tell you, based on today's presentation, absolutely. So it should be targeted specifically towards the company that they're looking at. So whatever their mission, their values, and what that type of position would be. But you would also have the general key terms of order entry listed in that skills section. But then maybe at the top in your overall summary, or you would definitely do it in your professional summary, showcase the different areas or industries related to the order entry that you've done, so that they can see it crossover, because those are what we call transferable skills. So even if you did it in one industry and you say, I don't want to do it in that industry and I want to move into healthcare or another industry, we want to show that those skills can be transferred to another industry because it's the same day-to-day. It's just, again, a different product or a different service that you're selling. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. The other thing is you want to create a notable accomplishments section. I call it on this particular resume career highlights, but you want to pull out kind of your top wow things that you've done that would be appropriate towards the position you're applying. So whoever's reading that, you want to think about, you're not kind of writing for yourself, but you're writing the resume to show or brand that message to the person that's going to be reading it. So that hiring manager, what are they going to care about in your career highlights? Okay, so if you're showcasing, I got, a scholarship back in high school, or a scholarship back in high school for a full ride tuition scholarship, we might not list that in the career highlights section if that's not something applicable to the position that you're applying to. It's still an accomplishment that you have, and maybe we list it under education depending on how long ago it was, but you're going to kind of, again, want to kind of target specifically what is that hiring manager going to care about. How did you save money? How did you save time? How did you reduce costs? There's a lot of different areas that are important to someone that's going to be reading that. Okay, so here's another resume, and another thing you want to look at is to modernize your resume is to add some color, some border, some shading, something that if you get past the ATS system and someone physically is going to look at your resume to determine these are kind of the top 20 candidates that made it through the tracking system, let me see which 10 I want to call in for an interview. You want it to still be visually appealing to someone's eye. So sometimes people have multiple versions of the resume. They'll have the ATS resume when they apply online. They'll have their modern resume where they're going to apply or bring it to the interview or pass on to somebody face-to-face. Or they might have a plain text resume, which is sometimes required in an application online because they don't want any of the visuals or the graphics and things, and they just want the general text or information. So when you work with me, I actually provide all three, and also a PDF format for you, so that you have an easy way to be able to apply based on the different positions or what they're asking for in the job description. But some companies have old tracking systems, some companies have new, some people have even newer. So everybody's tracking systems are different in what they can read and what they cannot read. Nobody can really give you in our field an actual this will, this won't kind of go through, but we know based on the research and stuff that we've done and kind of testing the systems with clients and things that we've had, what is things that we know that can be read and that are gonna make it through that tracking system to make you be able to be marked at the top in the high part of the list, kind of thing. So to say color, some people might have said before, don't put color on your resume, it can't be read by a tracking system. Most tracking systems now can read color, can read shading, but there's tricks to the shading and the borders and things that you're using based on how you're putting it in there. Because if you don't know the tricks to that part of it and you include it, based on how that information gets transferred onto kind of what's going to be read by an actual person through that company, it might not look the same, or it might jumble the information. So for instance, this graphic that I have on here is something visually appealing, but that particular graphic will not be read by the tracking system. So it's on there for someone physically that's going to look at it. But the reason that it's on there also is, even though it's not going to be read, those 3 key things that I said in those circles are said somewhere else in the resume. So you're not losing that information. It's still going to be captured or still be on there. So the resumes I create, I don't create separate ones or different ones. All the resumes I create are both ATS friendly and appealing to the eye, or someone that's going to view it face to face. You'll hear about infographics or different things where you'll start to see like just pictures or images on resumes. Those are things that are not read by a tracking system. It's strictly if you're going to give somebody something face to face or in an interview. Does that make sense? I feel like I'm giving a lot of information. Are you okay with that? Okay. And then also, some people ask about, we're talking about key skills or more hard skills. What kind of skills or training or things in your industry you know how to do? But maybe you're really great at time management, or you're really creative, or you have some of these other softer skills. You can still include them, but typically we include them kind of in the bullets within kind of your professional experience. We don't put them in that key skills section, because those are things that across the board a lot of other people have similar traits in those areas. So the hiring managers are looking for, again, those key terms or those key areas. Okay, those are all things I just said. So this is a trick, or this is something that can help you if you're writing your own resume, to keep in mind that whatever that position is or that company that you're trying to target, look at what are 3 challenges that someone that works for this company, or maybe they're in the news, three challenges that they might be having, or someone in this position, if I took this position, what are some 3 challenges I might have to overcome coming into this position or working in this position? And there's ways to figure that out and to look at that, but once you can identify what those are, so you can look at reviews on Glassdoor, you can actually listen to people through that company on different podcasts or different interviews that they might have talking about things that might be going on. You can actually even Google common issues in the general industry, what typically happens. But what you want to do on your resume then is front and forward showcase, these were the issues that are related to your industry or your field that you might be having issues with, and these are the accomplishments and things I've done to overcome in my previous positions those issues that you're having. To kind of, again, show those transferable skills, or show, if you bring me into this position, this is what I can do to kind of change things or kind of make things better for you. Okay, so this is that big line across your paper that we have, that STAR statement. Has anyone heard of the STAR statement before, or the STAR method? Sometimes it's called the CAR method. Have you heard of this? And how to kind of define what your accomplishments are. Okay, so this is huge, and it's really important to be able to use if you don't take away anything from today. This is kind of a key takeaway. So first of all, STAR stands for situation, task, action, and result. So if you're looking at your resume, you're looking to prepare for an interview, and you don't want to talk to an employer about your accomplishments, impacts that you've made in your jobs and the positions that you've worked, you want to break it down where you define a particular situation that you were in. What was your task as part of that situation or the team that you were on? What was your designated role? And then what action did you take based on that role? And as a result of that action, what happened? And so again, we want to look at positive things, so things that are going to make you shine or showcase you. So did you save a company money? Did you recruit a certain number of people? Did you spearhead an initiative or come up with a workshop to kind of help a certain population of people based on what the industry was that you were doing? So it's different for different industries. So if you're in a sales industry, you're going to see a lot of numbers, dollar amounts, percentages. But if you're in kind of more of an HR or healthcare experience, it might be more people related. or policy related, or process related potentially too, depending on what area of healthcare that you're in. Make sense? Now CAR, if you hear CAR, you'll also hear people say CAR. It means challenge, action, results. So they just kind of combine the situation and task into what was your challenge, what was the action you took based on the challenge that you were kind of confronted with, and then as a result of the action you, or as a result of the action you took, how did things work out in the end? Okay. So it's hard. This is the hardest part when I work with clients, to kind of think about as you're going backwards. So if you're no longer working for that company, trying to figure out, okay, well, what impact did I really make? And every single person in here has made an impact no matter what job that you're doing. Okay, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Okay, Portillo's. Okay, so tell me again, is it cashier at Portillo's? Or are you cooking stuff too?
I can do almost every station.
Okay. Have you trained people?
Yeah.
Okay, so she loves Portillo's. All right, so he works at Portillo's, so come visit him. He says he's really busy. But at Portillo's, first of all, you just said though, I can do everything. So not everybody there can. So and not only can you do everything, you just said that I've trained people to do other things. So can you give me potentially, I'm not having to put you on the spot to do that, but think of a time where you had to train, and how many people did you have to train? What was the situation that you were training them for, and the task as you as a trainer had to complete? And then what action did you take to help people learn? And maybe if they didn't get it the first time, how did you respond to that? And then as a result, were they able to transition and kind of learn that, or help with the efficiency of cooking, or kind of getting people through the drive-through faster, or that kind of thing? Do you guys have a time thing for your drive-through, how fast your people need to go through?
See, the thing is, like, there's just food items that would take longer than now, but we are supposed to stay by a specific time. It just depends on how busy we are.
Okay.
Where we just won't meet those time standards.
Okay, because I know McDonald's and some of the other
Yeah.
fast food places have specific, okay, this many, this person going through the drive-through has so many minutes that they have to be in and out of the drive-through to get the next person through, kind of thing, but you don't have to. So that's why you see Portillo's line probably wrapped around versus some of the other places as well. Okay, so think about that. And so here's just some examples, and for different industries of clients that I've worked with. But I take that STAR method after they write it out and kind of talk about that situation, and I kind of condense it down into kind of a one statement, starting kind of backwards with the result, like what's the positive thing, what's the best thing that you did as a result of this, and then kind of working back to kind of explain what it was that they were doing. So that intern I was talking about, she delivered a daily 2-hour live streaming show on Twitch for dedicated 100+ people in an audience, and she had 218,000 followers. And she actually does this ongoing. She does a 2-hour daily live streaming every night from 8 to 10. She's very dedicated, not paid, very dedicated, keeping her reputation and brand kind of going. Okay, someone else recruited over 700+ local youth for a high school pilot program, exceeding the aggressive goal by 40% and completing the goal within 7 months ahead of time. So again, saving time, and 700+ people, that's a large number, so the bigger the number, the better, to kind of showcase her and kind of stand out. Here's a percentage accomplished, a 44.8% quote to close ratio on auto and home inbound agency calls during the COVID pandemic during the 2020 year. So again, key things in there is that kind of during COVID, even kind of thriving within his part of the business and what they were doing. And migrated ahead of schedule, the PeopleSoft standalone database to Oracle RAC 12C-2, node cluster in less than 30 days for a 200+ business user and 10+ plants. That's the technology. So anybody in technology? Okay. So it might be a foreign language to you when you hear that or you see that. Okay, so here's an example of branding. Okay, here's my intern I was talking about that I'm currently working with. So she is an actual social media success. This is actually her icon of what who she is online, or how she's represented online. So what we did is we actually took her icon and kind of what she's known by and brought it into kind of the professional area. So we matched the pinks and we brought out the grays within her icon to kind of showcase that professional value, still stay true to the colors of her brand. The top right-hand corner is actually her personal logo that someone created for her that is actually seen in all of her videos. She actually has them in the corner and things. And then this is her resume and cover letter that we recently worked on together. Can you see the branding all the way through? So not only is she known online, but if someone read her information here, they would see accomplishments related to her online presence. So we actually have links in the top corner on both her cover letter and her resume to all of her social media platforms for them to personally click on and be able to go visit. We also have her link to LinkedIn to be able to go to her professional LinkedIn website. But then again, we pulled out the key terms and things, the highlight section with kind of her followers. She has 1.3 million followers right now on it's TikTok, but she has 1.3 million followers right now on. And she's done this over a period of less than 2 years of building this brand. And it was pretty much during the pandemic. She is actually a video gamer and has been in the gaming industry as a female and just has become good at that, but in addition to that, has been able to build her brand well enough that she's actually had companies reach out to her and sponsor her to be able to post things on her social media accounts based on her following and have paid her to do that. So she's making money just by playing video games and being herself and building her brand. But again, this is the industry that she's also then pursuing, but she doesn't want to necessarily pursue it in the video gaming industry. She wants to go into the business world with
So
it.
they're paying her to be an influencer.
To influence based on a particular brand or product. So one of the products is, I guess, a soft drink that a lot of gamers drink while they're playing or gaming, that probably has some kind of energy type of thing, not like a Red Bull, but it's G Fuel or something it was called. So that's their target market, are gamers and people that are in that industry, and those are the people that follow her. So they're reaching out to her to add that in kind of her comment section and say, check out this particular product as a way of doing things. And a lot of our millennials are starting to do different things in the influencing the social media platforms that you're gonna see. Okay, another one, so this is someone that's more established in the business world. He owned his own company, and he was looking to actually, based on the pandemic and everything that had happened, he was actually looking to transition into working for a larger insurance company that was going to pay for the marketing and do some of the bigger things that he was having to do as a small business. And so he was targeting State Farm. So we actually used their logo and their information when we were specifically targeting that company. And again, and the colors that we used were representative of that logo or that brand to again show I'm a good match, I'm a good candidate, I did my homework, look at me, I'm already fitting into your culture of your company based on what we were kind of putting out there. And this is his social media. So we added kind of a tagline, providing peace of mind to one valued customer at a time. So they get a little bit of a feel for him.
So no trouble using somebody else's logo?
Say it one more time.
So no trouble using another company's
So there are
logo?
copyrighted things, different things with it, but based on it being that he was targeting that company, it was okay to use. But yes, you can't go and, so for instance, in her social media here. So for LinkedIn, you'll see I didn't use the LinkedIn actual icon next to the LinkedIn link to be able to go to her profile. It was more of a general icon of connection because of the copyright and some of the other things related to that. Okay, so if you remember, we talked about 20% of the actual jobs out there are advertised on job postings if you're going to Indeed, if you're going on LinkedIn or different places, but 80% of the job market and the jobs out there that are available are not advertised. They're found through networks, they're found through connections. And LinkedIn is one of those online networks that allow you to start to connect with people if you haven't started already, with people you previously worked with, people you currently work with now, or potentially people that you want to work with in the future. So just some statistics. I showed this on last presentation, but those of you that weren't here, just so you can see kind of some of the LinkedIn statistics, but the things related to more of the job search thing are 40 million people look to LinkedIn for job opportunities every week. But I love the second one, 3 people are hired on LinkedIn each minute. So where are you doing your job search? Are you looking through Indeed and hoping a job comes up that sounds good or that you can find a match to? Or are you specifically being proactive and targeting companies you know you'd love to work for and connecting with those people so that when opportunities become available, they're potentially reaching out to you, or they think of you when you do apply because they're used to seeing you, or you've been following them, or you're mentioning things based on what that company is doing in the news and kind of based on what they're doing as far as some of the successes that they've had. Okay, so LinkedIn, how many of you have LinkedIn? Okay, about half. How many of you are current in your LinkedIn? Everything's up to date, everything's looking good, you've checked it recently. Oh, I lost everybody on that, or I got a kind of, okay. Okay, so you saw the statistics we just went through, okay? If you're looking for a new job, that might be a good place to start, okay? If this kind of makes you nervous or worries you, that's what I do. You know, I know how to optimize your LinkedIn. I know how to help you do that. I actually do it for you, but based on the LinkedIn privacy, I don't have access to actually go in and implement it right into your profile because you have your own password and login information. And so I actually have a template where I put all the information in, and then you just copy and paste and put it right into your profile based on what you're going to see and kind of what we're going to go through here. But again, keeping the branding, keeping the information. LinkedIn is a way to start to build your brand, start to tell your story, start to have people that already know you endorse you in the skills that you have, what you're already good at, what you're already doing. It's also a great way to connect with alumni from your previous college or workplaces, other places, things that you've done, things that you've participated in, because a lot of times people want to help people that they have some kind of a connection with in general. So for instance, if you went to a certain college, my undergrad was at Eastern Illinois University. People will actually go in and do Eastern Illinois University alum, and then that particular industry or job target skill that they're looking for to potentially see who's worked at Eastern that I might want to help a fellow alumni or someone else that went to the same school as me. Okay? So there's different ways to kind of target specific areas along the way. There's also a section on there that says you can actually click on and say to recruiters, hey, I'm looking for a job. So you might not want to show the world. You can show the world. If you were looking for a job, it would actually say open to work right under your picture. Okay, if you do have that on your LinkedIn, or you're saying I'm seeking a job. If you don't want people in the whole world to know and kind of the public to know, there's a special area where you can click and it just shows recruiters that are going on there and putting in keywords that you're open to being hired, but it's not telling and broadcasting it to the whole world. So maybe you're currently working, but you don't want your company to potentially know. Okay, so there's ways to kind of do some of the privacy things. It also gives you updates. So it'll tell you how many people viewed your profile. When you posted something, how many people viewed that post that you put out there, and then how many people actually searched to look for you online. And you kind of get an update so people can follow and see, am I growing it based on if I'm putting more content or information out there? Is my brand starting to be seen? Are there people starting to look at it? Are there people starting to share my information with other people? So there's a way to kind of track that. But LinkedIn is important not just to build your brand, but it allows you an opportunity to follow important people in the industry or important companies that you might want to connect with or work with in the future, to stay up to date with kind of the trends, but also identify topics that when you're in an interview and they ask that question, do you have any questions for us? You don't say no, first of all. You always want to have questions prepared, but also you can speak to maybe things that are currently happening, new trends or things that there have been in the news about that are kind of happening that you're up to date or can bring up based on new things that you've seen that your competitors might be doing or other things that, again, show you're more of an expert in the industry, show you're invested in that company, and show that that's going to be, again, a good match for you, and potentially show that you're an industry expert. You might not consider yourself, but again, if you know more about dietetics than other people, we might consider you an expert in this classroom versus somebody else, because you've got that background of that that skill set, even though you might not be as up to date with it as you would want to be. But also then to add connections, and that's the big thing, because your connections know other connections who know other connections that, again, are going to connect you to the right people, to the right places. And starting out, you know, kind of getting started here, it could be teachers, professors, you know, people that, you know, you're not been on a couch too much or too long that you could reach out to connect with. Right on LinkedIn, where you're not calling them, but you put in their name and see if they'd like to connect based on being a student. And if you did really well in their class or really enjoyed their class, you can send them a little message and ask them to connect. You know, it's a great way to, again, if they hear of opportunities, they might want to help out a fellow alumni, you know, of that particular college as well.
Send a chocolate cake.
there are strategies. I've actually had a candidate. I had a college student that only wanted to work for a specific hospital. So all these other hospitals were hiring. Only this one hospital, they didn't have positions available. Every time they had positions available, she wouldn't get called, whatever else. And her parents thought, we need you to get a job, whatever else. She said, this is the only place I want to work. I know I want to work there. She went and found out everybody's birthdays in the department that she wanted to work. And every time it was somebody's birthday, she would show up with donuts and drop them off. And, you know, again, to remind them who she is, whatever else. The next time a job position became available, she was the first person to know about that job opportunity, and she actually works there to this day. So there's ways and tricks with food and things. Again, meals, things bring people together, like Thanksgiving. We're in the month of doing that, bringing family together, bringing people together around a meal. So there are strategies and techniques. Did I say hand raise? Okay, so other things. So LinkedIn, the importance of LinkedIn, or what the purpose is. So let's say you have a resume, okay? The LinkedIn part, or the next part, the important part here, is that the LinkedIn is an extension of your resume, okay? So your resume has, again, all your professional values, everything that you've done in your career. Now, LinkedIn has an about section that we're not going to talk about all that, because in LinkedIn, there's a different section that lists all your places that you've worked, what you've done at those places. The about section is that branding section. It's a place for you to say, why are you passionate about your industry? What brought you into the industry? Maybe telling your story. What are your areas of expertise? Which is highlighted kind of in mine at the bottom. I use some of my favorite quotes in there. You can use actual, as you see, kind of icons or emojis or things too in there on there. But again, it's a more personalized. So in a resume, we never use the word I. It's always targeted specifically, not in the first person. And here in the about section, you will use I, and you will talk about yourself, and you're going to showcase what is your leadership style if you're a leader in the industry. How do you manage people? You know, or how do you like to be managed if you're going to be someone working for somebody else? What kind of a team player are you? But it's a way for people to get a gist of your personality. In addition, if I have your resume in front of me and I want to call you for an interview, I'm going to go to LinkedIn and learn a little bit more about you. What are you going to say there that might wow those recruiters further to want to put you to the top of the list and kind of call you up and bring you in for that interview? So your picture, because it's a way to connect who you are with who it is I might be bringing in to interview or to talk to. So having a profile, having a LinkedIn headshot is key, a picture. Having your headline, which is underneath your name, kind of showing or targeting who do you work with, who's your population of people, or what it is that you want to do, kind of with your job target. By default, it might just put your job target in there. But they're looking for someone that's going to add a little creativity in there and say, not just my default job target, but what are you passionate about? Or if you're saying, I have a passion to work with, some people even just say baby boomers, or they'll say a certain millennials, or a certain category or generation of people you can look at and say, who's the people that you work with. But again, it gives them an idea of who you are when recruiters go through here and actually search and potentially reach out to you and do the work for you instead of you job searching and trying to do it all on your own. People are reaching out to you, doing some of that work for you. So it's not just you. Okay, so that about section we talked about. Oh, and I didn't realize we're past time. I am chatting away today. So this is the last part here I want to show you. Okay, and so this is LinkedIn, different areas of LinkedIn. So it's going to show you your experience, the company name, the job that you did, and kind of the years that you did. So if you're filling out an application and you've been on LinkedIn kind of keeping this up to date, it's a great way for you to go back when you're filling out your application and look at what the dates were and kind of follow that information and have it right there in front of you. Your education, your licenses, and you can list up to 50 skills, again, that a recruiter might put in and look for. You want to utilize all 50 skills and put them in there. So if you only have a couple, add to that other things that you're specifically in or someone in that industry would be looked at as far as keywords. If you do any kind of volunteering, that's also important. Companies might be looking at that or wanting to see that. Recommendations. So I did this before I left my position at JJC. I had been there 7.5 years, almost 8 years. I had a lot of connections. And so I was moving on to kind of start my own business, but still staying in similar industry of what I was doing there, that I reached out to all of the people I worked with, and several of them I asked, can you go on to LinkedIn, write a recommendation for me so other people can potentially see the work that I did here and how that would translate to somewhere else. So it's a great way to do, especially if you're leaving a company, but if you're currently at a company, even to do. But depending on if you want them to know if you're leaving or not, kind of thing. So you got to kind of be cautious with that area, as well as interest. So again, companies that you follow, things that are interest, people can see what's good for you. So this last picture or screen here, I highlight kind of on your sheets as well, but I put next to the areas here, these are things in an interview that an employer looks for, and the things that have areas next to each one are things directly from your resume that are going to be able to be brought into the interview. The other areas are the things that we're going to build up through practicing in that interview prep, but the other things showing your knowledge, your evidence of your research, your past successes, all that stuff is coming right off your resume. So that's that key document to be able to know and be able to speak to as you're getting ready to go into an interview. You want to know what that is, and you want to have it in front of you so you can speak to those skills. So I gave you some challenges on your sheet of things you can take away from today's presentation, of things to start to implement and put these things into action based on what we're talking about. But again, what I do is, and I specialize in helping job seekers through all of this process, building your brand, optimizing your LinkedIn, modernizing your resume, creating a cover letter to brand to that, to kind of help you through that hiring process and be strategic in what types of jobs you're targeting, and specifically those companies, are they going to be a good fit for you, and how do we get your foot in the door with the right people to make those strategic moves. So again, all these areas are listed on the back of your sheet that I specialize in, and if you are interested or want help with any of these, I do offer a complimentary 15 to 20 minute conversation over phone or virtually that we can kind of talk through what your needs are, where you're at in your job search process, and then which one of these services or a combination would be the best fit for you to kind of move forward and kind of put those plans into action to kind of help you. Last thing I want to mention that we just kind of secured for spring is, if LinkedIn is not a strength of yours, there's going to be a presentation dedicated specifically just to LinkedIn in April, on April 13th. And anybody that attends that session, I'm actually a photographer on the side. I will actually be doing complimentary headshots at a later date for anyone that comes to that presentation that wants to update their headshot and kind of have something that they're putting out there that is kind of a professional representation of you and your brand, or maybe the brand that you're trying to create. So at that session, we'll let you know about the date for the actual headshots, but if you're interested or you want to learn more about the LinkedIn right before Easter, that Wednesday, I will be doing a presentation right here in this room. So come back and see us. And these are just the resources that we use. So I threw a lot of information out at you, and I know I'm gonna stay after for anybody that brought their resume that might want some feedback today while you're here. But does anybody have any questions about all the information I gave you? My purpose and what I teach and I provide resources is to make your brain kind of spin a little bit before you leave, so that it actually makes you kind of think through and reflect on, you know, what really hit me today and what was my takeaway. And then that's where I provide the handout, so you can kind of go back and ask yourself those questions or kind of revisit some of those things that you want to look closer at. But please tell me, was there anything missing or something I didn't cover in detail that you had questions about based on all the branding, the LinkedIn, and the resume related things today? How are your resumes?
Thank you very much for your resource, for doing this. I think you covered everything nicely.
Thank you.
And it was a pleasure meeting you, and you and I will speak soon.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm happy to help.
I'm sorry, but she's going to be my new BFF. Oh my.
Well, and I just want to say that too. That's why I like the in-person, because if you're someone that is like me, I like to have that relationship or develop to be able to do that customized thing. So we want to see if it's a good partnership, and it based on my personality and your personality, is it going to be a good fit for us to work together? Because it's not just me doing all the work. I'm going to need things on your part to kind of share and kind of help us through that process. And so we want to make sure that it's a good connection or a good fit along the way.
Thank you for your time.
Absolutely. I gave you too much information, I feel like. I actually cut down my slides today based on some recommendations from the last session, and I still went way longer than I thought. See, the problem is I'm too passionate about this title, so to cut it all back, but lots to know, lots to learn. But don't feel like you have to stay. But again, if you have questions or you want to revisit the stuff we talked about today, as soon as the link comes out, if you sign, did everybody sign in the sign-up sheet that went around too? No.
Second.
Okay. Oh, sign-up sheet. So let me send that around. Make sure you sign in the sign-up sheet. But if you can fill out the feedback survey, if you haven't done that already, I would love your feedback today because I will be doing this presentation or something related to other groups and organizations in the future. So again, too many slides, cut back, or only talk about resumes, talk about LinkedIn or separate, whatever it is, that I can improve upon, because again, I get very excited and very passionate about what I love to do. So please provide that